Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andy from Magoo Investing. Happy Wednesday. I was definitely planning on taking today off. I woke up this morning, just kind of was doing my own thing, was over here sipping my coffee, and then I checked the market and saw that all of the social media stocks are up pretty big today. And so that makes a lot of sense. Yesterday's video, we talked about how incredible of an earnings report Snapchat had, and if you missed that, I'll link that above right now. But towards the end of that video, I talked about what I expected the rest of the sector for the social media stocks to do, and I'll roll that right now. Right now, I definitely have missed out. The stock has done very well. I'm very happy for the company, and it should be a positive sign for the rest of the social media stocks out there. So I thought I was pretty smart saying that, but it appears like the overall market kind of agreed with me. So at this point, most of the social media stocks are up almost double digits at this point. I was planning on waiting to talk about Facebook towards the end of the week, just to kind of wrap up the week with the giant from the social media sector. But today I wanted to really talk about why I think Facebook is my favorite stock to buy right now. Unlike most of the videos that I've done in the past couple months, we're going to be spending most of the time on the computer because I'm mainly a technical trader. And what that means is I look at the stock charts to be the number one factor in deciding when I'm going to start investing into a stock. And when I looked at the Facebook stock, the charts were just absolutely beautiful. And this is probably the most attractive chart I've seen in a long time. So I'm really excited to show that off. But before we get started, I do have to say that I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Anything you see in this video is just me giving my own opinions on Facebook stock, and you need to do your own research before making any investment decision. With that out of the way, let's hop on over to the computer, and I'm going to show you why I think Facebook is probably the best stock market buy out there for my portfolio right now. All right, so before we get talking about Facebook, I wanted to kind of show what's happening in the rest of the sector. So yesterday we talked about Snapchat, and that was a really fun video. And we started off the video talking about how Snapchat was in an upward channel that if things went poorly, I was hoping to see it bounce off the bottom. As we zoom in up here, it just gapped up significantly. So now I'm going to be waiting for a gap fill on that, but that's not what I want to show. It is up 33%. Then you go to Twitter. Twitter is up 8%. Pinterest is up 9%. And then we go to Facebook. And just like yesterday, I'm going to start with no drawings being on the chart because I kind of want to show what it looks like with nothing on here. And so in the past, when I've talked about technical analysis for how I want to take trades, my eyes just kind of lit up when I drew this yesterday. I was going to plan on making this video towards the end of the week, but with the fantastic news from Snapchat yesterday pushing the rest of the sector up, I thought this was a better time to do it. So when I put up my drawings, it looks a little bit cluttered. First, I always chart out the bottoms. This is from the pandemic, and then we saw it bounce back. But the thing I really want to point out, and the reason why I think Facebook is one of my favorite opportunities right now and is probably the best buy in my opinion, is this upward channel. So this upward channel has been respected from the top side. This is back in July of 2017. Came up here, gapped down, respected it, and then it came back up here. And so whenever I have a stock that falls out of a channel that I'm in, I like to keep it just drawn to see what happens because it's often respected in the future. And as we can see, this channel was respected from the bottom side multiple times. So this is early May of 2019, July of 2019, January of 2020. And then it came up here and it took a long time to get over here. And what pushed it back up into the channel? Earnings report, which is a huge catalyst, which is what I've always talked about on this channel. And then it came up here to its recent highs back in, late August. And it respected it again. So this is a very solid upward channel, and for someone like myself that loves technical analysis and loves taking trades based off of price movement, this was super attractive to me. So then when I zoomed in over here and I saw it get really low to this area, I had this charted on Monday and I was really excited to talk about this. And now with this catalyst, this upward momentum from the great news from earnings, I think Facebook is a fantastic opportunity right here. Based off of the movement to the potential top of this channel, you have an 8% profit there, so that's pretty attractive. And based off of how well this has been respected, I really like Facebook right now. One of the problems that I do have is I like trading stocks that get beat down after bad news. And the reason I like doing that is because it gives me an opportunity to trade options on them. And another problem with trading options on something like this, first off, stock market is the most accessible it's ever been. So pretty much anyone can get in. Facebook is a relatively expensive stock, and the only part of investing that really kind of hinders comes from the options, because I would have to be able to buy 100 shares of Facebook, and I cannot do that. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I like some of these cheaper options, and especially with an upward channel, it's hard to draw a steady support because as time goes on, that support is just going to continue to increase over time. So it's harder to plan out that way. But based off of this upward channel, I'm loving this trade right now. I'm going to set an alert down to the 225 just in the future. You never know if it's going to hit that. But based off of this upward channel is so attractive. And we have everything going for it. We have the upward channel that has been respected from inside and outside the channel. You have a catalyst from the last earnings report that pushed it back through this resistance that I was having a tough time breaking through, getting back into the channel. The highs touched it, fell back down, and now we're getting this huge news catalyst that is pushing the stock up. And so everything on the charts, everything with the news looks fantastic for Facebook, and I think it's probably the best opportunity that I've seen in the stock market right now. Obviously, there is potential, as I mentioned with the Snap video yesterday, that after great news like this, things could go up for a couple days and then kind of sell off for a little bit. So I'm not going to be taking a position right now. Earnings report for Facebook should be by the end of the month. So if it falls in the next couple days, I'm going to look to take a smaller position. I can buy a couple shares. Obviously can't buy 100 shares to take advantage of an options play. But if it does fall back to the support, I will likely take a position because everything on this chart looks beautiful. And I think it's probably the most attractive trade I've seen in a long time. Okay, so now that I've shown what's on the charts, I know a lot of people want to know some more about the company, but it's something like Facebook. So most people know what Facebook is. I mean, there's 2 billion people using the platform, so I feel like everyone knows what it is. But I want to talk about some of the numbers and some of the past earnings reports to talk about kind of the trajectory of the company and where I expect Facebook to be in the future. So their last earnings report was July 30th, and based off of that and the prior earnings before that, they haven't officially announced it yet, but earnings are likely going to be towards the end of this month. So we're getting pretty close. And so normally I like waiting to see what happens with an earnings report before I buy into a stock, just because earnings report is such a huge catalyst that can make a stock move up significantly or fall significantly. We saw that yesterday with Snapchat. But based off of the positive numbers, mainly from the ad revenue, I expect Facebook to do relatively well. And so similar to Snapchat, 98% of their revenue for Facebook comes from ads. So this is a majority of their business and is the most important thing going forward. And with the summer months, the pandemic, the ad spending going down, a lot of these social media stocks had a tough time with their last earnings report. However, Facebook was not really one of them. Their last earnings report was pretty good. When you compare that to the other social media stocks, it looks really good. But Facebook is one of these giant companies that usually gets compared to stuff like Apple and Amazon, who had fantastic earnings report as they were able to take advantage of the pandemic and people staying at home more. But Facebook's earnings report was fantastic. Let's see, we saw ad drop across the entire sector, but they had positive net income of $5.2 billion. They don't have to worry about profitability like I talked about in Snap. Snap yesterday posted a surprise positive earnings per share, but I don't consider that profitability. I look at net income. Net income for Facebook has been fantastic. Their operating margin expanded to 32% from 27%, so they're making more money and they're being more efficient at how they're making it. There are some things going forward with Facebook that I do want to watch. We've had a lot of rumblings about antitrust allegations against the major tech companies in Google, Amazon, Apple, and Facebook. And so on Tuesday, we did have the first kind of move with that when the Department of Justice did sue Google for having antitrust allegations, basically coming from their practices for how they use their search engine. And so this is going to be interesting going forward. However, I'm not super worried about this for investing in something like Facebook. The major giants, Apple and Google, seem to be in the crosshairs of the Department of Justice, and Facebook just seems to get kind of tagged along because it's one of the tech giants. So I'm not super worried about that. But based off of that, the tech stocks, the major tech stocks, do have a little bit of a target on their head, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of prefer some of these smaller social media stocks, specifically Snapchat and Twitter, because I think they have a lot of upward potential, and they don't have as many things that could be taking them down, like the U.S. government. So looking at Facebook's books, you really don't have to see very much of it. This is a very impressive company, but I will just show what kind of jumped out to me. When you look at their revenue growth, it has been incredible over time. When you look at the bottom of this chart that I have up right now, the year-over-year growth looks like it's shrinking, but that's just because Facebook has grown at such an incredible pace that they've had double-digit year-over-year growth or revenue every quarter since they've gone public. And so in the past quarter, that was the lowest growth that they've had overall. It was still 10.5%. So that is, pretty much any company would be happy to take that type of year-over-year revenue growth. Facebook is incredibly profitable, as I mentioned earlier. The last quarter, they had $5.2 billion in net income. And then in all of 2019, they brought in $18.5 billion. They have $110 billion in shareholder equity and no long-term debt. So there's no debt to equity ratio because they have very little debt or no debt. And the most important part for a social media stock to me comes from user growth. And Facebook has done an incredible job of growing their user base, even though it feels like at this point they can't get any bigger. So in the last quarter, they had a 12% year-over-year increase for Facebook with 1.8 billion users using Facebook. And then across all their platforms, that includes WhatsApp and Instagram, they had a 14% increase to 3.14 billion users. Facebook is just incredible with the scale that they've been able to reach. Going forward, I think the best part about the company definitely comes from their stock price and the price movement over time. The charts are incredibly beautiful, and as I mentioned, that upward channel gives a fantastic way to kind of trade this stock. Going into earnings, I am a little bit worried. If Snapchat hadn't released earnings, I would have been a little curious to see what was going to happen, but based off of the Snap earnings, I do think that this gives a green light for someone like myself to buy in. As I mentioned on the chart discussion, that I'm going to be waiting until hopefully the stock fades a little bit. Usually have a little bit of momentum, things get really excited, the stock goes up, and then it fades a little bit. Hopefully it's going to drop down a little bit and I can get in at the price I want. I think the catalyst from the next earnings report is going to be fantastic. Something that I'm watching is, you often see this where the expectations get raised based off of another performer in the sector. And that may raise the expectations higher than they should be. And so Snapchat had the benefit, which actually was to their detriment in the first place, with their last earnings report where they released slightly worse than expected earnings. This quarter, they got to take advantage of that. So it'll be very curious to see if that raises expectations for Facebook to a level that they can't reach. But based off of the numbers that I've shared in this video, they pretty much always meet expectations. So I'm not really worried about Facebook. For a long term, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with the antitrust stuff. But on the shorter term, I love Facebook right now, and I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about it in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate all support, and I will see you in the next episode.